In today's video, I want to show you how to lay out the squares for our butterfly inventory quilt. And I'm going to share some tips for piecing when you are working with a lot of standard size squares, perfect for pixelated quilts. It's called the Twosy-Foursy method. Let's get started.
I'm Andy, and this is True Blue Quilts, a place to enjoy, experiment, and excel as you quilt.
Continuing with the inventory quilt, my butterfly angel wings project, I rearranged some of the colors and I added the body of the butterfly in some brown. And again, I'm trying to use a different scrap of fabric for each piece in the entire quilt. So even the half square triangles, I chose different greens than these other strips. Now I wanted to piece this with the Twosy-Foursy method that I will explain in just a minute.
Okay, to demonstrate the Twosy-Foursy method, I'm going to show you here on a diagram first before I take you to the fabric. We are going to sew these things together in 4 patches, so that we have these units together. And then once we've got these units together, then we can go to a larger unit, and I would sew these 2 patches together, and then these 2, and then these 2 to make a bigger 4 patch. So then I could make a bigger 4 patch and a bigger 4 patch. And as I'm doing this, I'm only working with 1 or 2 seams to match up at a time. In a 4 patch, I just have that 1 center seam. When I get to this 4 patch, I'll have 3 intersections to pin. Now, the reason I want to do this, what I'm trying to avoid is having to sew this whole long seam and match up every single one of those intersections every single time I sew a row. Because the more seams that you're trying to do, the more places you have to make a mistake. It's much easier to be accurate with just 1 intersection than for 9 or 10, however many I've got across the row. So you just slowly build your units out, and then we would be able to, take this big, long unit and sew it together. And then we would only have 1 or 2 big, long seams in the whole quilt once we got our Twosy-Foursy units together. And that way we're only having to line up those long sets of intersections once or twice rather than every single row pin every single intersection. It's just a way to keep things more accurate.
The Twosy-Foursy method is not going to work exactly right with this quilt because there is a mix of individual squares and longer strips. So let me describe my plan of attack for this quilt, how I'm going to start putting it all together. I'm going to do a left side and a right side. So in these sections, I will use the Twosy-Foursy method to get these big sections together with my pieces. And then I will, like if I do my 4 patches here, then I can add these 2 rows and then just add a row here, you know, group these together into smaller chunks where it makes sense. So I'll get the whole thing done down to where the wings extend. And then I'll work on this little section and then add the rows so that I have 3 main sections there. These little side bits that are pieced together with individual smaller sections, and then these other ones that have to be longer rows because that's the way I'm using my fabric. So just make your plan of sections to quilt together, lay out your quilt. This is where taking a picture is really, really helpful so that you can make sure you get things lined back up the way you intended those squares to be. So let me start sewing and I will continue to share my progress throughout this video. We're going to double time things up and I hope you're sewing along. You can see how the inventory quilt is coming along. I've pieced 3 sections. I will do the same thing over on this side. Then I will work with this little section on either side and fill in with these longer rows. So next week, please check back, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you will be the first to see the finished top for the butterfly quilt, and check the video description below for a link to the pattern so that you can start sewing along with us. I can't wait to see what you make with your stash.
Wonder why I am calling this an inventory quilt? Check out the video below where I explain my inspiration for this project. I'll see you in the next video.